Hey guys, Clumsy here, and welcome back to Explain 11. We are still in the beautiful Premier 1A by Carenado. This is the plane that P1D, Premier 1 driver, also flies, and it's my absolute favorite. We are just climbing to flight level 410 here. We're currently at around flight level 378. Climbing steadily. The climb rate has been pretty slow now, and this top altitude, which is to be expected. We have a flight of around 600 miles in total today, 600 nautical miles, which takes us from Utah to Oregon. And I just made this video mainly to show you guys what I've found out. There's a way to make VNAV work. It's not very smooth, it's not very polished, because normally VNAV is not supported in this plane, at least the explained version. But I think I found a way to make it work somehow, and I want to share it with you. Now, of course, in real life, the VNAV works, but yeah, that's why I really wanted to make it work. I was trying out different combinations, and I'm hoping that this time I'm able to replicate the procedure on how to make that work. Okay, so we'll just continue here, climbing to flight level 410. We'll be cruising, and then around 300 plus nautical miles we'll start our descent. That's the top of descent right there, and I'll be back. I'll bring you guys back when it's almost time, and I'll show you what I do, what happens, and what's the downside even if you make it work. Alright, catch you guys in a bit. Oh, and by the way, there is a new update of the plane. It's now in version 1.1. Couple of changes I wanted to share with you as well. One thing you might notice is the pressurization now looks pretty good. The cabin rate is now showing properly there. You can change the altitude selected here for the landing altitude. Before, when you were using this altitude selector, the numbers below were the ones changing, which didn't make any sense at all. So now this one is working pretty well with the actual the cabin altitude, right? So that's working pretty good now, as long as you have bleed air turned on and all that stuff, all the prerequisites. Yeah, so the also on one more update is the ATC ident. You can now click this, and now the ATC works. The ATC tab here works properly, so you can put that on standby while you're on the ground. Put that to 1 or 2 when you take off, and it will alert ATC accordingly and give you the right status for your transponder, so that you can work with the multiplayer ATC communities like VATSIM and all that stuff. I still have yet to test it. I want to get into VATSIM soon, but I haven't yet. But yeah, I've heard that it quite works pretty well now, right? I think those are the major changes with the 1.1. Some things have been fixed as well with autopilot, but still some bugs are there. So I'm not going to go into much detail about those just yet. Right, anyway, I'll bring you guys back when it's time to descend. Alright, we are almost there. Around 10 miles left till top of descent. We can actually see it on the radar there. And this is when the workaround starts taking in place. Now, I'm hoping this time it works, but this is what I do. I go into the FMS, I go and check the legs. The next altitude we'll be targeting is flight level 399. So I put that in the altitude selector, flight level 399. That might depend if you're working with ATC and they have different instructions for you. Go to prog so you know when the top of descent is. And from here, this is when it gets hairy. You have to assign a different key. The VNAV button doesn't really work. So go into the keyboard settings here. Look for FMS. This one, the autopilot FMS altitude, which is the sim autopilot FMS command. Assign a key there. For me, it's the N key. And remove once that is assigned, remove the altitude hold command. So press Alt here. You should get a pitch indicator there, and then press that command that you assigned. So for me, that's letter N. I pressed it and nothing happened, right? Nothing happened. But if everything goes well, it should work by the time that the top of descent is reached. This should change from pitch to vertical speed, and the number should be based on the degree of descent that you should be taking based on what we programmed in our FMS. So we'll see if that works. There we go. Vertical speed -1.7. Now one huge watch out. You will lose. Okay, this time it doesn't. Okay, you will get varying results here. This is when it gets tricky. And look at that, flight level 025. I'm not even sure where that got it from, but fine. So you'll have to be wary of a couple of things. It might change your altitude selector, so be wary of that. And in our case, we want it, let's put it 15,000 maybe. Yeah, 15,000 should be okay temporarily, which should be our altitude around Harzel over here. Okay, let's keep that. So now it is adjusting based on our current speed, which is Mach 0.74 right now. Well, even more, 0.77. It will adjust the vertical speed based on that 3-degree descent that we specified in here. So you'll see that the VNAV is active. It's following that 3-degree descent angle, vertical path angle, and it will adjust accordingly. So if we slow down, which we should be doing, you'll see that the VS is also lessening, because the slower we are those clouds we're passing through? I think they are, huh? Okay, but yeah, the slower we are, the less steep it has to descend as well. So that's a watch out, right? One huge watch out though, your mileage may vary. I know mine has. In each of the flights I've done, several things have happened. Okay, a common downside that this does, even if it does set your vertical speed accordingly with that descent, is your throttles get locked. So I have a yoke, I have a throttle, a physical throttle in my yoke, and that's what I use for the throttle here to adjust. But it might be that the sim will lock your throttle. So even if you adjust your throttle, nothing will happen. And in that case, you'll notice it immediately, of course, because that won't move. In that case, what you can do is go in here and adjust accordingly, manually, like so, using your mouse, because the mouse does work. Even if your throttle, your physical throttle won't work, adjusting the throttle via the mouse still does work. Okay, so don't be scared. And if everything else fails, if all else fails and you cannot adjust anything, you can always turn off autopilot, and that will remove the makeshift, the VNAV workaround, as I would like to call it. But yeah, this is pretty convenient. So at least we have a proper descent now, which has a variable vertical speed adjustment, and that's very nice. Actually pretty convenient. Let me just go and follow the FMS here. So it's telling me to go 0.74 Mach. So let me just throttle up a bit. And you might hear more of the engine now, because I figured out, actually I was asking it in the forums, a couple of questions have been coming up. If you have a problem wherein the plane you have is too quiet, that's probably because the sounds you have, the aircraft exterior is actually the one responsible for the engine sound. Regardless if it's inside the cockpit or outside, it's the exterior sound. It's a bit misleading, but that's how they modeled it. Unfortunately, as a consequence, that means if you increase the exterior sound, that means you'll also be getting deaf when you go suddenly to the exterior view. But that's a workaround. That's a trade-off that I'll gladly take, because I'd like to hear the engine well inside the cockpit like this. And this is much more immersive for me rather than having something super silent. Alright, anyway, I'll continue my descent, and we'll catch each other again as I approach the airport. Wish me luck, guys. But this is actually one of the best turnouts. You get the automatic vertical speed and you get to still have retain access to your throttle. That's the best result. That doesn't always happen. Anyway, catch you in a bit. And I'm back. So at some point, as you continue your descent, we're now at 5,000 feet. The VS, the automatic VS will change and suddenly will change to pitch like so. And if you look back to VS, I'm not really sure if it still automatically adjusts, but it doesn't adjust anymore as specific as how it was doing it a few minutes ago. Like it was down to the actual 1401, 1402. Now it's only a high level difference in there. So we'll see how that works. But I am approaching the runway now, turning final mostly. And the runway should be around around 10 miles more or less, 10 miles away. So we should be able to capture the, I'm not really sure how you call it, the pseudo glide slope soon. That's how I would like to call it at least. Altimeter should be 2987. Let me just adjust that. There you go. And aside from that, there it is. The glide slope has appeared. And once we turn final here, I should slow down. And let's see if we can capture that glide slope. Vertical speed 1,400 feet per minute. Descending. But if I slow down here, we should be able to capture it quickly. Yeah, you see the vertical speed isn't adjusting anymore. And I think that might be only happening when you have a flight plan coded into your FMS. Like if you only have the departure and arrival, I don't think the automatic, the VNAV workaround will work. But if you put in some waypoints in there, then it should work much better. At least that's how I think about it. Alright. Runway should be visible now. Actually, yes, it is. And if I go and hit approach here, does that work? It does not. Remove Alt. Yeah, we are actually, it's actually getting away from us. Is it doing something? Let me turn on the landing gear, slow us down. I think I have to make it a bit sharper so we can capture that glide slope. Yeah, from here it gets on a bit manual. So it's not going to be as seamless, especially once you get to the runway. But at least it's a bit more automatic, which is, I guess, what I am expecting personally from this plane, being one of the luxurious types. Flaps down one level. Flaps 10, I think that is. Flaps 10 indeed. At 170 knots, okay, we can actually go and do a bit more flaps now. Make the descent a bit shallower so we can capture the glide slope again. And there we go. That should then automatically allow us to descend. Perfect. Alright, flaps 20. Flaps fully down. Alright, here we go. And from here on out, it should be, actually have 6 knots crosswind, not very good. But this is the only runway available to us, so I have to make the best of what we have. Let me adjust like so. And from here on out, it's up to your piloting skills, which unfortunately I don't really have, so please don't expect much. I'm just hoping to land in the runway itself and not on the fields, on the surroundings. So as you guys might know, I'm a fairly new pilot, as you guys might have determined. And yes, we are actually below the glide slope, but I don't care anymore. We can adjust on our own. There you have it. above VREF for a bit. From here on, let's plan for that perfect landing. Ease out on the throttle a bit. Oh, I think I forgot something humongous. Please. There you go, lift dump. Slow down, please. Slow down. And then now we can hit the brakes. That wasn't too bad considering I forgot so many things. But I'll take it. There you go. Normally, should have unlocked that lift dump switch upon approach so that you don't do all the stuff in the last minute. The entire point of this is to not need to take your eyes away from the runway when you're landing. So don't follow my example there. But I'll take it. I'll take it. Too bad you forgot many things. The engine sync, the arming ignition, those should be done before the landing. But I don't think it's really modeled in anyway. So it shouldn't have a pretty negative effect practically. But for role-playing purposes, that was not done pretty well. Okay, anyway, let's turn off pitot heat. Let's turn that off. That's fine. Turn off the warning. And let's just park this and then we'll call it a day. And I should get my huge income afterwards. Now, where do we park this thing? And I'll take you guys with me all along the way. Okay, there's a hangar there. Let's say that's where we're parking. And yeah, I don't have rudder pedals, so actually the braking I use is, aside from the lift dump, which is essential for this plane, I only have that semi-parking brake toggle or hold from X-Plane, that one, which kind of lifts the parking brake just a little bit to give you that simulated braking experience when you don't have rudder pedals. It's not very authentic, but it works. Let's park here. I think we're good here, right? Okay, we are good to go. All right, turn off avionics, turn off bleed air. What else do we need to turn off? Well, now we can actually cut off fuel to the engines. Turn off the generator. Turn off the engine. Bring that back and we should be good. Let's see if we get the big money here. So I found a job which gives us around 8,000. Let's see if that worked. That's how the flight plan looked like. FS economy. That's the one, 8,541 miles. That shouldn't be there anymore. And if you look at the log, we actually earned only 4,766. Oh man, that's spent around 2,100 for renting the plane and the fuel. Ground crew fee. Wow, that's a huge loss. So we ended up with just 4,000. Okay, but that's fine. At least we were able to make the VNAV work somehow, even though the landing was a bit... Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. Hope that helped you out a bit and hope that you can make the VNAV work as well somewhat, because it's really a shame if you cannot make VNAV work with this beautiful plane. It's one of the must-haves in my opinion. Anyway, that's going to be it for today. Hope you enjoyed that video. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video, and looking forward to your comments and all that stuff, right? Thank you for watching. Have a nice day, and clumsy flying indeed. Bye-bye.